Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Administrator, for being here today. I want to quickly touch on something I think you've alluded to or talked a bit about in terms of workforce. The Boeing quality chief said experience on the factory floor in Renton was the #1 problem with employees, and that half of the employees had less than 6 years of experience. So Boeing is committed to enhance its training program, increasing it from an 8-week minimum to a 10-week minimum. Is more training a replacement for experience, and how do we grow that next generation when we're so thin up top? Do you have any ideas on that, or any comments to make on that?
Well, it's certainly a problem, and I would say it's been a problem across the industry. I think all of the players, whether it's at FAA hiring folks or airlines, there's a shortage of experienced folks, and we're all competing for the same team. In a world of safety management systems, it's a risk that gets identified and needs to be mitigated. So the best companies identify that risk and put in programs in place to mitigate it, which in some cases is funding training schools. In some cases, it's bringing back retired employees to mentor on the floor. There are steps that you can take, but it is incumbent upon the companies to take those steps, identify that risk, and mitigate that risk.
Yeah, well, I mean, I like that idea of bringing people back, maybe as a contractor part-time, to try to mentor that next generation coming through.
Because you can't replace that deep experience that you get from those decades.
No. There's 6 key performance indicators that are going to be monitored closely as part of Boeing's plan. If certain of these, like the employee proficiency, shows a big problem, what would the corrective action look like on this as you're overseeing this?
So each of the KPIs is different, and there are other measurements that we're also keeping track of. And the idea would be that we have 2 levels of concern. So if you will, if it goes from green to yellow or yellow to red, yellow is we need to work to figure out what the problem is and get it back to green, and red would be, okay, stop, we need to kind of do a reset here.
Yeah.
Each of them will be different, and problem solving will be different, but these would be risk identifiers, and then the program would be to put together mitigations.
Is this a new program, or is this just a refinement of a program that's been in effect for a while?
Well, the overall plan is new. I think most components of it, frankly, are new.
Right. Good. Good. I'm going to go local with you here. I think when we talked, when your nomination was up, the airport that I fly into, Charleston, West Virginia, Yeager Airport, the FAA formally paused the environmental review of Yeager Airport for our runway extension. It was quite extensive to try to do this. We are in the mountains and have some issues. But we do have a 77-year-old terminal, which we are trying to assist them with. Are you familiar with the terminal project? And we could certainly use your help on that one.
I'm happy to look into it. As we discussed before my confirmation, I think small community airports are an important part of our infrastructure, so we're very supportive. But as we go through the AIP funding and other pieces, we'll certainly get back with your office and talk about that.
Yeah, some of the issues that they brought forward, which I thought were sort of interesting, like the gates that we have, some of them, and we don't have a whole lot of gates. We always say our international flights are in another terminal, but we don't have a lot of gates. But they can't accommodate certain modifications to different planes. We can't bring a bigger plane in, all these kinds of things. So if we're actually going to grow our economy and grow our ability to compete, we're going to have to renovate here and modernize.
Happy to look into that.
Thank you. Thank you. The last question I have is, this has happened to me more than once, where you're late or you're delayed or for one reason or another, and it usually has to do with going in and out of Florida. But the reason that's given, and I always like it when I get a reason, by the way. I think it's good when airlines, instead of just saying, wow, see you in 15 minutes, they tell you why, but is because of air traffic. Is there a shortage in the air traffic in Jacksonville? Is there too much traffic in Jacksonville? And what are we going to do to solve this problem? Because it's clogged, in my view, it's clogging up the East Coast, obviously, if you're going up the East Coast. Is that a fact that I'm dealing with there, or?
It is. It's a lot of it is geography and demographics. So during COVID, a lot of people moved to Florida. So the demand in Florida has gone up really significantly over the past several years. The air traffic routes to Florida are as narrow as Florida is. And so during peak seasons around the holidays, we will get airspace back from the military and be able to open new routes through the military airspace off the coast. But it's a fairly narrow strip of land and a lot of thunderstorms. So usually what you're dealing with is thunderstorms compressing that superhighway that's already.
But is the capacity at full abilities with the air traffic controllers? That's not the issue. It's more.
It's more of a physical limitation. Unless we were to have more airspace available to us that came out of the military.
How does that work? How much airspace do you get off coast?
Well, I don't have an exact number, but it's not far. And when we come down through during Thanksgiving, for example, we get other routes that go out further over the ocean to create other pathways. But we get those by getting it released from the military.
Well, it just clogs up the system. I don't have to tell you this, but it clogs up everything, even flights coming into West Virginia, certainly up into the major cities along the East Coast. So anything we can do to help with that, certainly think it would be a benefit to the system. But thank you for your service, and thanks for answering my question. We'll follow up on Yeager.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.